So, in this question, we have the graph of 1 over negative 2x squared minus 0.5 was reflected and the image is shown. So the graph that we see here is not the equation that they give us, which is different than a lot of questions. So we have to be careful in how we read this question to notice that. What was the equation of the image? So we want to find an equation for this red graph, and we know that the original graph was reflected in the x-axis. So some of the things, when I see this reflected in the x-axis, I think about, okay, it's going down like this.
For the interruption at this time, any grade 11 student interested in IB programming, please.
So we had underlined that reflected in the x-axis. If you think about that, that means your y values are going to get multiplied by a negative 1. In function notation, that is outside of the function. So if we want to find the equation of the image, and this was the original equation, and reflected in the x-axis means this function notation is really helpful, because it means that we can just take the original function and put a negative in front of it, giving us 1 over negative 2x squared minus 0.5. And you could leave your answer like that. If you wanted to put the negative inside, okay, be careful, because some people put the negative everywhere. Remember, a negative outside is like a negative 1 outside. And I can write a negative 1 as a fraction like that, with a negative on the top. If I did that, can you see I would get negative 1 over negative 2x squared minus 0.5? Or I could have thought of the negative on the bottom of the fraction. And if I did that, I would get 1 over, distribute that negative on the bottom, 2x squared plus 0.5. But you don't put the negative everywhere, because then you would have had a negative 1 on the bottom and a negative 1 on the top, which is like a positive value. Okay, so questions to practice on this one. 7, 8, 9. And then 12, I'm going to put a couple asterisks beside, because 12 is a bit of a thinking question on your final exam. They will put a couple of questions that cause you to think. They're a little bit different than what you've seen so far, but you have the tools to be able to solve them. So make sure tonight you take a look at 12 and then remind me tomorrow to go over it in class so we can discuss what are some of the things you needed to see in that one.